I never thought the person I feared most, my own mother, would one day try to steal the one person I love. That night, when I walked into the room and saw her hand reaching for Ben, my heart stopped. She wasn't my mother anymore, and yet she was. And in that moment, I knew my life would never be the same. My name is Keira Holt. I'm 20 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado. I work part-time at a bookstore downtown. People say working with books is peaceful, but peace has never belonged to me. I grew up under a shadow that wore the face of my mother. From the outside, she looked respectable, admired, the kind of woman who always had control. But inside our home, control meant chains. She had rules for everything: how I should dress, how I should sit, how I should breathe. Perfection was proof of love. Mistakes were unforgivable. I remember the night I dropped a porcelain figurine. It shattered across the floor like broken teeth. My mother's face didn't move. She didn't scream. She just walked me to my bedroom, locked the door, and whispered, "Think about what you've done. Perfection means discipline." I stayed there an entire day. I was 12. Moments like that shaped me. Fear replaced comfort. Silence replaced laughter. Love was something I learned to hide. By my teens, I lived two lives. The one she demanded, obedient, flawless, and the one I kept secret, where I longed for freedom. That secret life led me to Ben Lopez. Ben was gentle. In a world that had only ever been hard, he laughed easily, and when he looked at me, I felt seen. He wasn't rich, he wasn't perfect, but he was honest, and honesty felt like gold. My mother forbade dating. Her voice still echoes. "Boys distract you. They ruin your focus. They take what they want and leave you with nothing." But my heart didn't listen. When Ben held my hand, I felt alive. So we met in secret, walks after work, quiet corners of the library, quick coffee before I rushed home. Ben would whisper, "One day we won't have to hide." I smiled back, but inside I doubted, because my mother always knew. She controlled everything. At home, tension lived in the air. She inspected my room like a guard. She demanded answers: where I went, what I read, who I spoke to. Her eyes missed nothing. Every slip became a lecture, another weight on my chest. Sometimes I wanted to shout, "Why don't you trust me? Why don't you let me breathe?" But the words froze, so I just nodded, whispered, "Yes, Mom." Arguing only meant harsher punishments. Still, she sensed it. One evening, she looked into my eyes. "You're hiding something, aren't you, Keira?" My throat tightened. I shook my head. She studied me, then said, "Remember, I always find the truth." I went to bed trembling, clutching my phone like contraband. Ben was my secret, my rebellion, my fragile hope. But loving him meant lying every day, sneaking out, covering my tracks, deleting messages, and every time I saw his smile, I knew I was risking everything. Still, I couldn't stop, because in a life built on fear, he was my only escape. I thought the hardest part was surviving her strictness. I thought I knew her limits, but I was wrong. I had no idea what was coming, no idea how quickly fear would turn into something darker. It happened on an ordinary night. My mother was driving home from work, the kind of night that should have ended in silence, in rules, in her voice telling me what I'd done wrong that day. But instead, it ended with the shriek of tires and the sound of shattering glass. I remember the phone call. The words felt distant, like someone else's tragedy. "There's been an accident. Your mother was taken to the hospital." My hands shook so hard I could barely hold the phone. At the hospital, the halls smelled of bleach and fear. I sat outside the emergency room, knees pulled against my chest, watching doctors rush past. My heart pounded, but not with pure fear. It was mixed with something darker, I was terrified she would die, and yet there was a whisper inside me, a whisper that asked what life might look like if she wasn't there to control me anymore. That whisper felt like betrayal. I hated myself for even thinking it. She was my mother, the woman who raised me, who fed me, who paid for my life. And still, she was also the woman who locked me in my room, who clipped my wings before I even knew I had them. I sat in that chair all night, my body numb, my thoughts a storm. Fear, guilt, anger, they all collided inside me until I could hardly breathe. When the doctors finally came out, their faces told me everything. She was alive, but she wouldn't wake up. A coma. 3 months, 90 long days where the world stood still. I visited her every morning before class, every night after work. Machines breathed for her. Tubes kept her alive, and I stared at her face, pale and motionless, wondering who she would be if she ever opened her eyes again. During those months, I lived in limbo. Part of me was free. No inspections, no punishments, no endless lectures. The house felt lighter without her voice, but freedom came with guilt. I'd walk into the kitchen, pour a bowl of cereal, and suddenly hear myself think, "This feels good." And then I'd break down crying, ashamed for feeling relief. I prayed every night. God, please bring her back. Please forgive me for my selfish thoughts. And then one morning she opened her eyes. But the woman who woke up was not the same mother I had known. The doctors explained it slowly. Head trauma, memory loss. She had lost everything that happened after she turned 18. In her mind, she was still a teenager. At first, I didn't believe it, but then I saw her smile, a smile I'd never seen before. Light, careless, almost childish. She asked me where her posters were. Posters of bands from the 80s. Within days, she covered her bedroom walls with them, filling the space with colors and faces I didn't even recognize. She started dressing in neon skirts, oversized jackets, bright lipstick. She blasted music so loud the neighbors complained. She stayed up past midnight giggling, singing along to lyrics from decades ago. Dishes piled up in the sink, laundry scattered across the floor, bills went unpaid. It was chaos. And I stood there trying to process it all. For years I had lived under her iron rules. Now, suddenly, I was living with a stranger. She wasn't my mother anymore. She was an 18-year-old girl trapped in a woman's body. And as strange as it sounds, a part of me thought this might be easier. But I was wrong. This was only the beginning. At first, I told myself I could handle it. She was my mother, even if her mind had slipped back in time. I thought if I was patient enough, if I kept her safe, kept her calm, maybe she would slowly return to who she used to be. But days turned into weeks, and instead of coming back, she drifted further away. I wasn't her daughter anymore. I was her babysitter. Every morning started with chaos. Half-eaten cereal on the counter, clothes everywhere, the TV blasting music videos like a teenager's party, her room covered in posters, lipstick smeared on the mirror, shopping bags spilling onto the floor. I tried to clean, but she only laughed. "Relax, Keira. Life's too short to stress over mess." Life's too short. She had never said anything like that before. And then came Ben. He wanted to help. "You don't have to carry this alone, Keira. I'm here." So he came by after class, fixing shelves, carrying groceries, trying to steady the storm. But whenever he stepped inside, she lit up like fireworks. Her eyes sparkled, her voice softened. She leaned too close, laughed too hard. One afternoon, as Ben fixed a cabinet, she tilted her head. "You're even more handsome than Mary's father back in the day." The words froze me. Mary's father. That was how she referred to my dad in her fractured memory. She spoke as if I were her old friend, not her daughter. Ben flushed red. I tried to laugh, but inside I was trembling. The more time passed, the less she resembled the woman who raised me. She embraced what she called her new freedom. Neon clothes, glitter heels, selfies posted online with captions like, "Still got it." At first, Harmless. Embarrassing, but harmless. Until the messages started. Strangers filled her phone with comments. She replied to everyone, giggling at midnight. I asked who she was texting. She hid her phone. Just a friend. Don't worry. But I did worry. Soon she was meeting them for coffee, spending money we didn't have. Packages arrived, perfume, shoes, dresses, credit card bills piled up. Neighbors whispered. People from church shook their heads. I wanted to protect her. But everywhere I turned, another fire. One night I found her curled on the couch, texting fast. Her face glowed with excitement. Who are you talking to? I asked. She grinned like a girl with a crush. Just someone who says I'm beautiful. Isn't that sweet? Sweet. That was her word. But to me, it was dangerous. She was slipping further into a world she didn't understand. A world ready to use her, and I was powerless to stop it. Exhausted, covering her tracks, cleaning her messes, and beneath the exhaustion, fear grew. Fear that this wasn't just memory loss. Fear that I was losing her in ways I could never bring back. It started small, questions that cut sharper than they sounded. Why do you spend so much time with Ben? Do you even deserve someone like him? Her tone was playful, almost teasing, but her eyes told another story. There was something darker underneath, something closer to jealousy than curiosity. I tried to shrug it off. He's just helping, Mom. But she wouldn't let it go. She circled me with questions. What he studied, how he treated me, whether I thought he might like someone else. Her words clung to me like thorns. It wasn't a mother's concern, it was competition. One afternoon, Ben came by to fix a broken shelf in the living room. I stood in the doorway, pretending to read. She hovered next to him, too close, laughing at everything he said, tilting her head, brushing her hair off her shoulders as if she were 16 again. At one point, her hand slipped against his arm, then against his hand. Ben cleared his throat and pulled back. Could you pass me the screwdriver, Keira? I walked over, forcing a smile, my heart pounding. She just giggled and said, Oops. I wanted to scream, to drag her out of the room and shout, He's mine, not yours. But I didn't, because she wasn't herself. She was trapped in this strange, reckless version of youth. So I bit my tongue until it bled. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face leaning too close to his. I tossed in bed, staring at the ceiling, telling myself over and over, she doesn't mean it. She doesn't understand. She doesn't even know who she is anymore. But then I heard her voice, through the thin walls, soft and sweet, drifting from her room. At first I thought she was talking to herself, but then I realized she was on the phone. Her tone was giddy, almost shy, like a girl confessing a secret crush. I've met someone. Yes, he's younger. So much younger. But there's something about him. He's special. He looks at me like I matter, like I'm alive again. My chest went cold. I pressed my ear to the wall, hardly breathing. She laughed softly. Don't you dare tell anyone. You remember how it feels, right? Back in high school, when we thought love was the only thing that mattered? Silence, then more laughter. It took me a moment to realize what she was saying. She was talking to her best friend from high school. A girl who had died years ago. But in her fractured memory, that girl was still alive. She was confiding in a ghost about my boyfriend. I sank down onto the floor, covering my mouth, tears burning my eyes. It wasn't just embarrassing anymore. It wasn't just inconvenient. It was dangerous. She was slipping further away, building fantasies that blurred every line between past and present, mother and daughter, reality and delusion. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pull her back. A part of me wanted to shake her awake, to scream her name until she remembered who I was. But another part, the tired part, knew that the mother I once knew was already gone. The invitation came out of nowhere. We should have Ben over for dinner, she said one morning, her voice bubbling with excitement. "It'll be fun. Just the three of us." I froze. The way she said it didn't sound like a mother planning a family meal. It sounded like a girl planning a date. She spent the whole day preparing. She lit candles and dimmed the lights. She put on a short, sparkling dress I had never seen before, red lipstick, perfume so heavy it lingered in every corner of the house. Music floated from the speakers, slow, romantic songs that didn't belong in our dining room. When Ben arrived, she greeted him at the door like a hostess welcoming a guest she'd been waiting for all week. Her eyes lit up, her laugh was high and careless, and for a moment I wondered if he noticed what I did, that this wasn't normal. The table was set with candles flickering, plates arranged as if we were in a restaurant. She sat across from him, not beside me, leaning forward with her chin resting on her hand. "Do you like 80s music, Ben?" she asked, her voice almost dreamy. His smile was polite. "Some of it, yeah. My dad used to play a lot of it." That was all she needed. She launched into story after story about her teenage years, bands she loved, movies she skipped class to watch, the nights she dreamed of running away with someone who understood her. Ben listened, nodding, laughing softly. I tried to join the conversation, but every time I opened my mouth, she cut across me. "Keira doesn't get it," she said at one point, waving her hand dismissively. "She's never had any taste in music. She doesn't know the classics." I swallowed hard, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. Ben glanced at me quickly, his eyes apologetic, but he didn't say anything. What could he say? The evening dragged on, each minute heavier than the last. The candles burned lower, the music grew softer, and I sat there, invisible in my own home, watching my mother flirt with the one person who was supposed to be mine. At one point, she reached across the table, brushing her fingers along Ben's wrist as she laughed at something he said. My stomach twisted. I excused myself, mumbling something about a phone call, and stepped into the hallway just to breathe. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching my phone, though it wasn't ringing at all. My hands shook, my chest ached. Through the crack in the door, I saw it happen. She leaned closer, closer still, her shoulder almost touching his, her laugh spilling into the quiet like a secret. And then her hand slid down, resting against his thigh. Ben stiffened. His eyes widened. He shifted back so fast his chair scraped the floor. I held my breath, frozen in the hallway, my heart pounding so hard I thought he might hear it. She tilted her head, pouting like a scolded teenager. And I realized in that moment, I wasn't just losing my mother. I was losing the fragile line between us, between parent and child, between past and present, between love and something I could barely name. That night burned into me like a scar, because once I saw her hand on him, I knew the world I thought I understood had shattered for good. The sound of the chair scraping across the floor echoed like thunder. Ben stood up so quickly the candlelight flickered. His face was tense, his voice firm. "Mrs. Holt, please. I love Keira. Only Keira." I froze in the hallway, my phone limp in my hand. I stepped back into the room just as the words left his mouth. My eyes went straight to her hand, still hovering near where his leg had been. My chest tightened, tears burning before I could stop them. She looked at me, then at him, then back at me. And in that instant, she wasn't my mother. She was a teenager, pouting, wounded, sulking like a girl who had just been rejected at prom. Her lips trembled. "You don't mean that," she whispered, her voice sharp with disbelief. "You don't really love her." Ben shook his head, stepping closer to me. "I do. I always have." The words should have made me feel safe, but all I felt was the weight of the room crushing me, the heat of humiliation burning in my skin. I wanted to shout, to tell her to stop, to make her see what she was doing, but no words came, only tears. The silence that followed was unbearable. The music still played faintly in the background, soft and mocking, like it belonged to another life entirely. Finally, she pushed back her chair and stood. Her smile was brittle, her laugh hollow. "Fine, if that's how it is." She swept past us, her heels clicking against the floor, and disappeared down the hall. The slam of her bedroom door made the walls shake. Ben turned to me, his face pale. "Keira, I swear, I never—" "I know," I whispered, cutting him off. My throat was raw. "I know." But knowing didn't make it hurt any less. That night, the air in the house changed. Every corner felt poisoned. The living room still smelled of burnt candles and spilled wine, a reminder of the night that had split everything open. Ben left quietly, guilt written all over him. I watched him walk away, wondering if this would be the thing that broke us too. As for her, she locked herself in her room for hours. When she finally came out, her eyes were red, her face swollen from crying. She didn't look at me. She didn't speak. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Meals passed without words. She drifted through the house like a ghost, slamming doors, scrolling endlessly on her phone. But the silence didn't mean surrender. I caught her one evening in the living room, her phone glowing in the dark. She wasn't texting strangers anymore. She was on Ben's profile. Her thumb traced over his pictures, pausing on each one. She didn't notice me watching from the hallway. She just whispered to herself, He'll see I'm better." I backed away, my stomach twisting. She wasn't letting go. Even after being rejected, even after humiliating herself, she still clung to him like he was the proof she needed, that she was still young, still wanted, still alive. And I realized then, the danger wasn't over. It was only beginning. I wasn't looking for it. I only went into her room to change the sheets, to bring some order back into the chaos she left behind. But as I pulled the blanket straight, something hard shifted beneath the pillow. Her phone. She never left it behind. She guarded it like treasure, sleeping with it clutched in her hand. But now it was here, glowing faintly in the dark. My chest tightened. I told myself not to touch it, not to cross that line. It wasn't my place. And yet I reached for it anyway. The screen lit up in my palm, and what I saw made the breath catch in my throat. Messages, thread after thread, all to one name, Ben. For a moment the world tilted. My hands went cold. I told myself I was mistaken, that it couldn't be him, that there must be another Ben. But the truth stared back at me in every word. "You look so handsome tonight. I can't stop thinking about your smile. Let's meet. Just the two of us. You don't have to tell Keira." Each sentence struck me like a blade. The letters blurred as my vision filled with tears. I blinked hard, but the words stayed, burning, undeniable. Ben hadn't replied. His side of the screen was empty, silent. But at the very top, a new notification appeared, bright and cruel. A fresh message, from her, and it flashed across the screen at the worst possible moment, just as Ben was walking down the front steps outside. "I'll be waiting tomorrow. Please don't ignore me." Unsent, unread, just sitting there, waiting to reach him. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring as though the phone itself might explode. It didn't matter that he hadn't answered. It didn't matter that the messages were one-sided, because the betrayal was already carved into the air between us. My mother had crossed the line again, and this time she had left proof in her own words. My pulse hammered in my ears. I pressed the phone against my chest, shaking so hard I could hardly breathe. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run after Ben and demand answers, but my voice wouldn't come. Instead, questions clawed at me, sharp and endless. Why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he show me? Did he hide it to protect me or to protect her? Was he tempted, even for a moment? The not knowing was worse than any truth. I stumbled back into my room, slammed the door, and slid down against it, the phone heavy in my hand. I should have thrown it, smashed it, erased the words before they seared any deeper, but I couldn't. Because even if I destroyed the phone, I couldn't destroy what I had seen. I curled into myself, pressing my forehead to my knees, and sobbed. The sound came raw and broken, filling the silence of the house. I cried for the mother I no longer recognized, the woman who once locked me in my room for breaking a figurine and now sent love notes to the boy I loved. I cried for Ben because even if he hadn't answered, he was still caught in the web of her delusion. And I cried for me because I didn't know if I had anyone left. I didn't know if I had already lost them both. The tears blurred everything, but one thought cut clear through the storm. This wasn't just about rules or rebellion anymore. This was betrayal, sharp, undeniable, sitting in my hands in black and white. And I had no idea how much more I could take before something inside me finally broke. I couldn't keep silent anymore. The phone in my hands, the words on the screen, they had pushed me past the breaking point. So I walked into a room, trembling but steady, and held the phone out. "Enough," I whispered. My voice cracked, but the words carried. "You're not allowed to see him again. You're not allowed to message him. Ben is mine, not yours." Her face twisted, first in confusion, then in rage. "You can't tell me who I can love," she shot back, her tone sharp, her eyes wild. "You don't understand. He makes me feel alive. He makes me feel like I matter." I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to cry. "You're my mother, not a teenager. And if you love me at all, you will stop." The silence stretched. Then she screamed, a sound so piercing it made me flinch. She clutched the phone to her chest, as if I were stealing the last piece of her. At that moment, Ben appeared in the doorway. His face was pale, his eyes tired. He looked from me to her, then back again, and I could see the guilt weighing on him. "Keira," he said softly, "I should have told you about the messages. I didn't because I didn't want to hurt you, but I never answered her. I never will." He pulled out his phone right there and scrolled to her contact. With one press, he blocked her number. Then he turned the screen to me. "See, I love you. Only you. I'm sorry for not protecting you from this sooner." My chest loosened just a little. The ache didn't disappear, but at least I knew he had chosen me. She saw it too, and the realization broke her. She collapsed onto the bed, sobbing. Her cries weren't the cries of a mother. They were the cries of a girl, raw and desperate. "I just wanted to be loved again," she choked out. "I just wanted someone to look at me and see more than mistakes and years gone by." Her voice shattered into the air, and then she buried her face in the pillows, muffling her sobs. I stood frozen. My anger burned, but underneath it was something heavier, pity. Because even though she had hurt me in ways I couldn't forget, she wasn't a monster. She was broken, lost inside a time she could never return to. The posters on her walls stared down at me, faces of bands from decades past, colors bright and false. Her room looked like a shrine to a life she never wanted to let go of. I stepped into the hall, closed the door gently behind me, and sank to the floor. My body shook with exhaustion. My hands clutched the only thing that still gave me strength, my Bible, worn and frayed from nights spent whispering prayers. I pressed it to my chest, shut my eyes, and whispered into the silence. "God, please, bring her back to me. Bring her back to who she really is, even if that means strict rules, even if that means harsh words. I'd take the old her over this confusion, over this pain. Please, don't let her be lost forever." Tears slid down my cheeks as I leaned against her door. Behind it, I could still hear faint sobs, muffled by posters and pillows. And there I stayed, caught between the memory of the mother who raised me and the stranger she had become. Pain in my heart, hope in my hands, because even after everything, I still believed. I still believed she could come back.